Very good. We'll go ahead and get started. And if anybody else comes in, I'll go ahead and admit them later. So just a reminder that we do have social media accounts that you want to follow, hashtag RCOE Esports. And today's presentation is going to be CCEL, a slightly different approach to high school esports. And your presenter is Dr. Richard Woodruff. I'll go ahead and pass it over to you, Doctor.
Hello. I think so far it's just going to be myself and you, Douglas. Do you prefer Douglas or Doug or?
Doug. Yeah, since we're all cozy.
You can call me Richard.
All right.
Cool. So I'm gonna get to sharing. So welcome. My name is Richard Woodruff. I am, interestingly enough, a coordinator at San Joaquin County Office of Education from the Ed Services area, focusing on continuous improvement and support. But I also started an esports league previous to joining SJCOE, and the associate super team and the super were kind enough to see the positive impact this could have for our students and community. And so they basically opened the doors to me being supported by CodeStack and a bunch of other people to kind of expand the Central California Esports League. So you might have to move your window a little bit, but the picture in the upper right, that is of our, I would like to call him the pioneering student, a student named Noah Tuatavuki, who is now in college. I think he's in Maritime College. And basically, it was the year of 2017-18. I was visiting principals in the Central Valley area to kind of help them with planning for ed tech, like fiscal policies, like how much they wanted to spend and what they wanted to get and how it was going to impact their students and the like. And Langston Hughes Academy in Stockton, California, while I was there visiting that principal, this particular student, Noah, stopped by and dropped off a letter to the principal and like stopped dead in his tracks. He looked at me, looked at the principal, was like, is this the guy? Is this the dude? And I guess they had been talking about me at some point, but the principal said yes. And so Noah gave me his 30-second elevator pitch on what esports in high school is, why it was important, and that it needed to be something that was student-driven, student-led, and empowering the students, using that as some type of device. So I looked into it. At the time, there was only about 90 universities or colleges that were offering some type of a college scholarship or something like that. And that was enough for me because most of the students that I served back then were Title I schools. And I was looking to provide any kind of opportunity I could to help the students have additional opportunities. So maybe they could get a scholarship in esports along with academics or traditional sports or something like that. Like try to give them more. And so I see Dallas just joined us. Dallas is one of our coaches. Thanks for joining us. And in a little bit, I'd like to share the mic with him so that he can kind of share his story.
Okay.
So currently, we are mainly using League of Legends and a system called BattleFi, which is basically like an LMS, but for esports. It houses our tournaments, it houses our stats, it tracks players. There's like player portfolios and those types of things. And it happens to be the leading repository of data that college recruiters look at. So that's mainly why we went with them. And they're already signed up with Riot Games for League of Legends and those types of things. So it's from here that I want to show a little bit. Let me see if I have the video in the right place. Hopefully you guys are seeing the YouTube video on my screen or on your screen.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So this is Noah Tabuki at our championships pre-COVID, just before COVID actually, presenting as our keynote speaker.
I'm not getting any audio from that video.
Okay, let me try this again. I wonder, moderator, do you have audio and videos turned off?
No, when you share your screen, you should go, let's see. There should be a little checkbox when you share your screen at the bottom that allows you to share your audio as well.
All right, let me see where that's at.
Your audio, your wireless signal link. What's that? What's your wireless signal link? Are you on it's been in a, are you on camera? No, it's muted.
Okay, so hopefully that'll work now. Let me try again.
It goes back and forth between 3 and 4.
Okay. But right now, I just rebooted something that looks like it might be stronger. It looks stronger on your.
Can you mute yourself, moderator, please?
So this all started.
Can you hear it now, Douglas?
I was about
Or
16 years old. My friends and I, Zach and Isaac, who's here today, we had the joke of, what if we had an esports program and got the school to endorse it and treat it like a real sport? So obviously the next best thing to do is start a club. Now, at first, we did not have an endorsement from the school. But what we did have was a large player base and a group of people who were excited about playing League of Legends competitively. So we reached out to other organizations and competed in smaller leagues, and we spoke to them about how to get this program started, because we just had an idea, nothing else. We went through the chain of command from the dean of students to the principal. Now, meetings with the principal is where we kind of ran into some problems. You see, LHA had about 3 different principals during my high school years, and for each new principal, I had to reestablish that connection of esports and what we would like to do. On one fateful day, as Dr. Woodruff said, I walked in on Mr. McGill, who was the current principal at LHA, and him having a meeting about technology for the future of LHA. We talked about esports. Dr. Woodruff and I then began to get to know each other a little bit better, and he loved the idea. A little bit over a year later, and a lot of presentations, we had convinced the parents of LHA and some of the staff that esports was something that was worth putting time and money into. That was the year that we had the first season of the Central California Esports League. There was only 3 high schools at the time: Langston Hughes, Ben Holt, and Tokay. Yeah, clap it up. So that first season was absolutely amazing. It was super small, which was okay, but I knew that we were going to grow. At the end of that season, we all met up for what was a dinner and a banquet, basically. This was the first time that any of us were really coming together to meet each other. It was something that is almost indescribable, because it was people who had never actually met one another that were, to me, it felt as if we were old friends that were finally being able to see each other again. It was a community that was built off of one idea: playing League of Legends competitively. It was something that we all shared, and that's what bonded us. Now, over another year later, here I am. I stand before you today because of the progress that my friends, Dr. Woodruff and his team, have put forth in order for us to all be here. I am very excited to say that I can't wait to see what CCEL has for the future, and I'm excited to see the players. And if I have any words for you in terms of encouragement on like what you should do going forward, be proud of yourself And for parents, teachers, be proud of your students. They are doing something that not a lot of people can do. And they are putting time and effort and work into it because they believe that they can make something out of it. That is the goal that everybody should have. Find their passion and try to make a career out of it. I believe the saying is, if you do what you love, you never actually work a day in your life. And I truly believe in that. I'm excited to see where CCEL goes, and I'm here to fully support it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Art.
Cool. I feel it's important to share Noah's voice because he's kind of the reason why we got this whole thing kicked off. And so now we're actually in regular season play right now. And I know Dallas has a game coming up in about just under 40 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic over to Dallas. If you care to just kind of share your experience and your journey about the CCEL.
Sure. Hey, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity, is what I can really say. And again, I have to reiterate, if it wasn't for the students, I might not have known about it, and I'm glad that they brought it to my attention. Basically, it existed in our school before, the discussions even happened. I didn't realize it, but all of these characters from these games were in my students' artworks. Some I knew, some I did not, but they were already there. And they were telling me about these things on the side. And then eventually they started saying, hey, this is happening other places. So same deal. Some of my students started reaching out to other people they knew in other high schools to see what they were what they were doing, what was happening. And then they started saying, hey, we actually found someone that was willing to support us. So once we found that, it's kind of like you do the all call. And once you do an all call about that, you don't realize what kind of feedback you might get at first. But the responses were really overwhelming as far as the amount of students and the variety between them. Students who might not normally come together in their little groups during, at school, in places like where they hang out together, clearly have this common ground. So that was pretty interesting to see how many and who showed up for tryouts, and then the questions resulting from there, asking about what's possible, what other games can we get into, how far can we push this, how long is season play going to be, what's it going to be like when we get multiple sports going on, can we play multiple teams, things like that. So the questions are kind of actually endless from them. They're just quiet about it because they're students sometimes. There's usually one in the group that'll speak up, but they really keep coming at me with a bunch of ideas and questions. And I just hope that we can keep it growing because it's been amazing. In fact, I wouldn't have played myself if they hadn't told me, showed me, and then kind of secretly trained me, by me just watching them. So it's been an experience for me as well, I should say. And they really show a different side of themselves. And that's the other cool part. They are thrilled to keep up the academics to play. I've never seen kids like happier to turn in, reports on how they're doing, even though the majority of them can handle, what's going on. And we know that all students cannot handle every academic out there. And this is another drive for some that have maybe some struggling areas to find some support, to make sure they can do what they love. So that was another cool thing to find out about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Dallas. I appreciate it. And whenever you have to jump off to get to your team, totally understand.
Yeah, I'm probably just going to do that so all systems are hopefully ready. You got to do the tech check.
All right. Well, good luck. And
thank you.
We'll probably see you in the playoffs.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Thanks. So just a quick question.
Yeah.
Now that you've got an established program, and are you having to fend students off with a stick from joining, or that? Because from my experience, I started a back before Microsoft bought out Minecraft, I had a Minecraft EDU server set up on campus, and we had a after school Minecrafter program.
Oh, nice.
2 computer labs, and we didn't have enough room for all the kids that wanted to participate. So
yeah, that's a very good point. And we're preparing for that now because currently we have only been supporting League of Legends. And League of Legends has a bit of a smaller footprint, a smaller player footprint for the types of players that want to play it. The main reason why we went with that is because we were starting something new in an area where it hadn't been done before. We wanted to make sure that we were using a game that had high collegiate scholarship potential, high earning potential, like if they went straight to the pros, and had a low controversial component. Everything in it is cartoonized, everything is minimized. So the likelihood of, you know, parents being upset or the community being upset of what's happening in that game is a lot lower. So it seemed like it was very low risk, very high gains. So that was the game that we went with, as well as it had very low hardware requirements. So pretty much any existing computer lab could run it. So there was a bunch of reasons why we went that direction. And so interestingly enough, we got into this to, you know, empower students, strong equity piece. You know, we wanted to kind of level the playing field that, you know, anybody could play so long as they were meeting academic expectations. We were working with the CIF for the past several years. We were helping them to move things along while they were going through their legal issues with Playversus. Now that they got that handled, but if you haven't been kept abreast of that, right now they're doing a pilot activity with Playversus. They've done 1 year, now they're in their 2nd year and they have 1 more year. And then so after next fiscal school year, they're going to decide whether or not they're going to continue on it as an activity or if they're going to actually bring it in as an official high school sport. So we're kind of waiting for that, and we've been working alongside them to make sure that we're kind of mirroring what they're doing so that if the time comes, we can just kind of fold into that. So that's why we have academic requirements, behavior requirements, attendance requirements, all of those sorts of things.
Yeah,
so
I wasn't sure where, because I had read something earlier this year that PlayVS was in discussions to make it a legitimate varsity sport for high school level anyway.
Yeah, so as far as I know, Playversus tends to jump out with their ideas before they have, you know, everyone aligned, so to speak. So I would wait until I hear that from the CIF. But as far as I know, the CIF is still kind of testing the waters to see if that would move forward. But in that same respect, that's why in our league, we are mirroring the JV and the varsity component so that there's basically 2 tiers of teams. And the other thing that we're mirroring that we haven't seen anyone do yet is that we're doing regular season play. So instead of it being a 1 and done or a 2 and done type of tournament system, we're actually regionalizing or putting district areas on schools and having all the schools within a region or a district play amongst themselves. So every school will play every school per season, which provides more competitive playtime than the other offerings that we've been able to find so far. And the other component that kind of separates us a bit is that this is kind of a standalone thing. We're not really using esports to kind of drive students in a direction, so to speak, other than providing them a voice, providing them a platform, and hopefully bringing more interest into scholastics, period, such as, you know, meeting your attendance, meeting your grades, meeting behavioral expectations and those types of things, which we've been very successful with. We've seen lots of, you know, I've spoken with lots of students personally to where they weren't able to meet those requirements for, you know, let's say fall season. So they work their butts off, doing extra work, doing off hours work, extra credit, so that they could become player eligible by springtime. And then once they're able to do that, it's like a homecoming, like everybody's cheering them on. There's like little celebrations and parties just to get them eligible to play.
I'm so glad, Dr. Woodruff, that you mentioned that. That's something that escaped me to mention, but that exact kind of story is where this gaming culture, this club culture, exactly how it benefits kids. We had something very similar at a high school with NASEF playing League of Legends, and that was it. Their captain and their jungler was flagging, and we say 2.0, and 1.64 is not 2.0. So going into the finals, I had to pull the plug. And what happened was what you're saying. The kids rallied together over 2 weeks and said, Mr. Brown, if we do this, 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 they laid out a curricular path. They checked in every day with teachers, showed where the kid was getting tutoring, extra credit, whatever else to get there. Come the Saturday of the quarterfinals, 1.98. And I went, no, how could I say no?
Yeah.
Because look what they did for 2 weeks to get him there.
Yeah.
That was all student invention. How could I knock them away for 2/100ths of a point? What kind of Grinch would I be? No, much more important to do that. For 1.98, get in the game. Good luck. Right? That's it.
I really appreciate you sharing that too. And that was one of the things that we made sure to add into our bylaws too, is that there can be coach or principal, but it has to come down to the principal ultimately.
Obviously.
That if there is a circumstance such as you mentioned, the principal can push them over.
That's right.
And this is what also has allowed us to open our league to non-traditional schools, such as your continuation schools and your young adult schools. So long as they're listed as a California senior or a senior in a California high school institution of some kind, they're allowed to play so long as the principal vouches for them that this is going to be a positive impact for the student. It's going to positively affect the league, et cetera.
That's it. And we've got lots of kids, like you said, working with correctional facilities, working with alternative ed, where they come in and the reason they're there is because they're not scholastic performers. Let's be honest. But this is the candy. This is the chocolate broccoli that's going to rope them in. So you're starting with a 1.1 grade point average. Okay, that's where you're starting. What's it going to look like in a week, a month, a quarter? How are you going to get up so that on very quick terms, you're going to get up to what that minimum expectation is, wherever we set that. For NASEF, it's 2.0. So you've got a trajectory. I'll let you play. You can certainly join the club, and not but I need to see that up curve. I need to see that tick. Otherwise, the club charter says all of us need to pull this weight. We can help each other, but if one person's not doing it, we know what the rigors are. And then suddenly I'm not the bad cop. Principal's not the bad cop. Code of conduct charter says don't meet the method, then you got to sit out until you can find a way back.
So a 2.0 GPA for the students and that is cumulative across everybody in the club, or is that per student?
Per student, every individual, because yes, as a club, we would want to think that we would all prosper, but we also can't hang up the club. The needs of the many, Spock-like, cannot outweigh the needs of the few. So, or should outweigh the needs of the few. So if we have individuals, like Dr. Woodruff was saying, I'm interested to see what can we do for you to help get you over your particular journey, right? We got to get over your humps because everybody else seems to be pulling. How are you flagging? What can we do to get you up there? And then that becomes student choice. If they still choose not to show up, not to finish projects, not to do the work, but they're great players, well, then the team is going to suffer because we have to make those right decisions. And to your point, Doctor, principal makes that final decision, but that's also how we show that we've got some teeth to this, that it matters. If the esports club matters to you, then wouldn't you want to be doing your very best to get those minimum expectations met?
How do you deal with the nomad nature of the continuation school students?
Like, you mean as far as bringing them together, or for them participating in the league? I've got some students that, you know, they'll be at the court and community school is where I'd really like to target this, but they're 1 week and gone the next, you know, like how do you manage that kind of scenario? So that comes down to their coach. That's why the coaches so like when a principal wants to join, because we tried it with coaches, quote unquote coaches, who were just kind of the adults in the room. And I don't know if you can still hear me or not. Okay.
My son set the alarm and it got.
Oh, is everything okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So, because in the past we tried it to where it was just a warm body. It was just an adult, a staff member, basically supervising the students. And what we found is that the student voice was lost. So that's why we're adamant that, like, if this is something you want to do for your school, the principal needs to be behind it, and they have to be finding or looking for or even hiring somebody who will be a SysBoom boss, someone who will be an advocate for the student voice, someone who will be checking in with those students that go a bit rogue and trying to pull them back into the team. It's super, super important. And we found that usually, because like we're a little stricter in schools or education entities joining the league, because we don't call it a club. We call it a sport. We call it a team. This is an official team for this high school. They are carrying the school's name. They're carrying the school's pride and spirit. They get school jerseys. If there's, if the soccer team is mentioned on the PA, the esports team is mentioned on the PA. So we find that they have this whole new wash of confidence and respect. And I think that component alone will really help to kind of wrangle in the rogue players in continuation schools. We haven't had a big issue. Once we have principal buy-in, we have jerseys and the team spirit thing going, and we have a good coach, or at least the coach doesn't even have to be good at the games we play. The coach just has to be an advocate for the students. Like, hey, I may not play this game, but I'm a gamer, or I'm in the nerd culture, so to speak. I get it, and I'm going to fight for you guys. That's what we need. And so I'm going to share just a quick thing here. And so one of the other components that we do that we don't really see elsewhere, at least seeing pushed as much as we do. This is before the other counties had joined. So I just took a snippet of the high schools that are participating right now. The thing I just want you to notice is where it says Twitch. Most of our schools are streaming their games live. And so we're a big supporter of getting digital journalism put into these games. Because I have been approached by college recruiters offering full ride scholarships for just someone that can do that. Someone that can be a charismatic YouTuber, for lack of a better term, but to kind of be able to say what's happening within the matches, etc. And so we can see a little bit here. I'm going to kind of zoom ahead a little bit to this video.
Nothing more coming out from that though.
So you can kind of see what the students are doing in the lower left.
It's a really well placed wind wall too to stop any damage coming from bars back to the Yasuo.
Yasuo was definitely.
So what you're seeing is Noah and another student, Ishmael, both of which were in the program, and they're doing what we call shoutcasting.
I think they're trying to go for Drake right now, or maybe it's a.
And so this is being streamed live on Twitch. We had about 150. It fluctuated between 150 to 200 people in the auditorium, and we had about another 300 or so that were watching it live.
Something to know here.
So the shoutcasting can be done during live gameplay as well as recorded gameplay?
Yeah, exactly. So like this game was being played live, and we had a camera on them that was also being played live. Everything was live. And so we found that the school spirit, the student buy-in, everything almost went through the roof once they started doing that. And I think it's important to kind of throw that out there as an additional component, because you may get students who maybe they weren't the best League of Legends player, so to speak, but maybe they're charismatic, or maybe they want to be charismatic, or maybe they didn't even know that they could be charismatic. And, when you give them the responsibility of saying, hey, you're now representing our school, so you got to speak appropriately, make sure that you're very respectful in how you carry us, because you are now carrying us on live TV. Anybody can get that link and anybody can see this.
Very true. I'm sure that would be fearful for a lot of
Yeah, you know, and some were scared to do it, but you know, and some are kind of, you know, a little bit mousy when they first start doing it, but you could see as they go through the league that they start to become more and more confident
just
in how they're going.
On a techie side of the house, so you've got like a Elgato like game streamer that plugs into an HDMI cord, and so the people that are shoutcasting it are actually viewing the live stream gameplay so that they have their webcam connected, and they're the ones that are broadcasting live to Twitch, or?
Yeah, so basically we use something called OBS, which is yeah. And so the way that it works is whomever is a shoutcaster, they are also a spectator in the match.
Okay.
So they have what they call, you know, director control or God control, to where they can move the camera anywhere they want. They can zoom in on something or zoom out. So it's more so than just being a commentator. They're also a director, also a producer. There's a whole lot going on. And we find that, you know, one person can do it, but we prefer two. Someone that's maybe a little more technical, someone that's a little more silly, and they kind of feed off each other. We tend to get more viewership when we're doing that.
All right. I've done a little bit of legwork. I've been researching this now for several months. So I've been piecing together all the bits, but it's, you know, until I put it all together and work with it, it's kind of that, you know, up in the air still, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And so this is a picture of how our weeks typically go. This one's different. This one's basically, this has been altered for COVID. Typically, all matches have to be played on campus to make sure that everything is fair, nobody's using macros or anything like that. But we found that we had an overwhelming cry for, can we get something going during COVID? And so we relaxed the rules a little bit. We're basically not calling it an official season, so we're not going to be passing a trophy. Because normally, you know, if you played and you went all the way to the top, you get a trophy that has your school's name engraved at the bottom, and it kind of passes around. Dallas, whom you saw here earlier, they are the current reigning champions. And as you can see on the scorecard, they're still in first place. If they win today, then they definitely have a seat in the playoffs. Today is our last regular season play. And then we move into playoffs and then champions.
So are you using a separate bracketing system, or are you just using, like, does BattleFi do that, or is that just?
Yeah, so I actually do it in BattleFi, and I can show you real quick what it looks like. My laptop's probably dying right now.
And is there a cost for BattleFi, or is this all?
No, BattleFi is free.
Wow. You should talk to Heidi Bynes about this then, because she was showing me something else that had a bunch of advertisements all over it. And
let's see, here we go. So who's Heidi?
She was one of the moderators that helped get this whole thing set up.
Okay, I'll look into that. Okay, so right now we're looking at, you can see all the previous tournaments and seasons we've done on the left. This is the current one that we're in. If I click on participants, these are all the school captains and schools that are currently playing right now. If I click on brackets, each one of these will show, you know, so basically we had to do kind of a workaround to keep Riot Games happy because it kind of signed an exclusive deal with PlayVS. But PlayVS does the one and done, and we don't believe in having a whole team or a whole thing where they're only going to play once, and if they lose, that's it for the season.
Yeah.
So to kind of get around, or I should say, to keep Riot happy, we have to break our bracketing into weekly tournaments. And so as they play these weekly tournaments, they gain a point. And then whoever has the most points, that's kind of how we rank them to go into playoffs and championships.
Got it.
And the other component is we have to keep them in brackets or regions or divisions of no more than 16 schools. So once we start partnering in spring with the other counties, we're going to have divisions, and each one of those counties is going to be a division. They're going to play through theirs, and then all the champions are then going to culminate, and we're going to have like a final championship. So yeah, it basically does. I mean, once you set up the tournaments, you set up the brackets, and then you send out an invite to the team captains, and it will kind of do everything automatically for you. So long as you're communicating with the team captains that, hey, you need to go in, you need to roster your team. And once they roster it, then it sets it up. And you can see that it tracks all the stats, because this is what college recruiters are looking for. They want to be able to come in and see what happened in that champion game or something like that. And so current, huh? Huh? Yeah, there's a lot to take in.
No, I was just looking at this bottom player, Tutaloo.
Oh yeah, Tutaloo. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tutaloo is one of their stronger players.
I was gonna say.
Yep. And so I also have some videos that I inserted in here. The one on the right is kind of a puff piece. The one on the left is our actual championship. So it's 6 hours long, because we had JV, we had varsity, we had ARAMs, we had trophies and awards, and we're partnered with Western Digital right now and STS Education and Sector 6 Apparel. So they give us either free things or a huge break on things to be able to provide these additional things, which kind of takes us into back to our equity piece. So I've always been this champion, like throughout this whole thing, of like, oh, we're so equitable. We're so equitable. It's like boys and girls can play along, people of different gender identities can play along, and, there's no barriers that we're putting up. And it was when I was working with our design team from CodeStack, he brought up a good point. He said, I did some research and I looked into the demographics of the people who play League of Legends, and it's a pretty small component. It's only about 30% of gamers. And it really opened my eyes that I've been so afraid to introduce other games to kind of, for lack of a better term, I didn't want to piss off families and communities. But what I'm learning now is perhaps I do have to kind of stand up for this a little bit, because a huge part of our gaming population are students. They want to play first-person shooters. Yeah. They're all playing Call of Duty. They're playing Fortnite. They're playing all Modern Warfare, all of these games. And so what we found is we were going to start moving in the direction of that with Overwatch. But what we found that with Overwatch is there's a paywall, but Western Digital was going to take care of that for us. But still, that's sticky. And B, it's kind of difficult to watch. Like if you don't know about Overwatch and you're watching people play Overwatch, a match could be done in 3 minutes and you're going to wonder how it happened. So because a lot of the people who are watching this are first-time video game watchers of any kind. Their parents and their community members that are like, well, Juanita made it to the championships. Maybe I should watch this and see what this is about. So that's also where the commentators come in. So what we found was Valorant. Valorant is a cartoonized first-person shooter that has minimal blood, minimal things like that.
The PC-based game?
Yes, and it's also made by Riot Games. And it's free. So it makes it easier for us to get into that. And I feel more confident in standing up for a game like that for our community, because we're going to reach more kids, more students. And with popular requests, we also have Rocket League. So either this spring or next fiscal year, we're going to be offering all three, because we feel that with all three of these games, it's pretty much going to cover something like 95% of the player base. You know, maybe they weren't playing Valorant, but they do play FPS, so it's not that big of a merge. Or maybe they play kind of more sports games. Maybe they haven't played Rocket League, but it's kind of a sport game, so they can merge. And then you have your tactical MOBA, which would be League of Legends. And we have a huge outcry for Super Smash Bros. As well. So we're also looking into borrowing Riverside COE's model with Super Smash Bros. And doing maybe a once or twice a year type of tournament with, you know, certain pilot schools and try that out. And we feel that that would kind of help us get into the middle schools as well. Because with all these other games, it's got a PG-13 rating on them. And just to try and keep things way less of a legal battle, part of our rules is that the student has to be the age 13 to play. Because if you go below the age 13, you get into something called COPA.
Yep.
Yeah, so you're familiar with that. So this way we avoid COPA, and then we just kind of work on student data privacy, and we're super good at that. And that's why we don't allow something like Discord. I'm sure you may have heard of Discord.
Yeah.
We don't allow Discord in our matches because Discord owns all the data that's being transmitted. Therefore, they own that student data. So we use Mumble, which is an open source voice over IP.
Okay.
And so each one of our districts that plays, their district office throws up a virtual server, puts Mumble on it, and gets the kids links and codes, and then they speak through that.
Wow. I think that's what I used when I played Arc.
Yep, I played Arc. Yeah, I've used Mumble, I've used TeamSpeak, and I've used Ventrilo. And I'd have to say, I say that I prefer Mumble out of all of them, especially because it's free, and you can spin up your own server to host it and own all your data. So the other main component is we run the league like a democracy. Everybody has a vote, and everybody's vote counts. And so once or twice a year, whenever we have new things or new rules or something coming up, we invite as many principals and coaches and any stakeholders that want to come to where they can vote on what we're doing. And we found that once we started doing that, it really opened up to like a lot more schools wanted to join in. And I'm already in talks with 7 more of our local high schools joining in for spring, in addition to the 5 or 6 pilot schools in the other 2 counties that are going to be joining in.
Just out of curiosity, I've been thinking about rolling this out with where there's some buy-in by the ELA staff, then the mathematics departments and science departments and stuff like that, not just to keep their GPA up in each of those curricular areas, but have them participate in the esports program to like maybe write promotional material in ELA, you know, or
That's a good point.
In the mathematics department, have them do the calculations on how they can monetize the live stream and how much money they could potentially earn and all that kind of thing. So have you dabbled with any of that at all? Or?
That's a very good point. So yes and no. We haven't done anything officially through those channels. I think they were kind of waiting to see how big this could get before they jump in, because we have a really robust STEM department at SJCOE, and they were kind of like, you can go ahead and take care of that. But now people are starting to ask them, like science teachers who are also coaches, are asking our STEM department to get involved. So I'm thinking it's just those departments are really not used to it. And I'm totally open to have conversations about it, because And I really like that you mentioned ELA because some of the students knew I was going to be presenting to a different area, and they basically sent me a bunch of testimonials. And one of them, I'm going to try and read for you really quickly, but it resonates with what you're saying because he was an English language learner.
Yeah.
Okay. And so this is what he said. As a shy person, talking or communicating was difficult for me. To add on, English was never my strongest language, so speaking to people in English was scary, and I would have to think of words I want to say when talking to others. When I joined esports, I was open to a world where everyone was consistently talking about the game. So over time, I started getting comfortable with the people in esports. I even learned a lot of English along the way. Looking back, I still question how I'm able to make a lot of, I think he meant to say a lot of fun with friends in just 1 year. Most of my friends are from esports, but because I started to get used to talking to others, I began to talk to others outside of esports. And it was just an exchanging thing. And then he goes on to talk about ever since quarantine, he's been spending a lot of time with his friends there, and it's made him feel better. And that he said that it's really helped him to be able to communicate better with people in esports, outside of esports, in person and virtually.
Yeah, I mean, it's all conversational, so that would be a huge bonus for them.
Yeah.
Think about that. Like,
yeah, and he was also the team captain, and so being the team captain, because he was a better player, he had that. And like my background is psychology, and so I know that because he's in these high stakes situations, he's learning English more quickly than you would not being in a high stakes situation. So it's kind of a way to modulate to where, I mean, I'm speaking purely hypothetically, but I would say that English language learners in esports would probably acquire English faster.
Yeah.
Cool. So that about sums up everything I have. I'm going to throw my email out there.
Yeah. I'd love to touch bases with you sometime in the future here.
Yeah, that'd be great. And everything we do is no cost. We're not charging anything for, moderating and sharing information and things like that. And kind of the plan that we're doing is, because right now with Stanislaus COE, we're bringing them into our umbrella until they get, 10 or 15 schools. And then we're going to turn them into their own division. And then they're going to kind of grow the same way. We're all going to still be a part of the CCEL, but they're going to be Stanislaus division, whereas we'll be San Joaquin division, and Sacramento will be Sacramento division, and kind of just how you do traditional sports.
Yeah. It's too bad you took Central California.
Well, we're all that. So
I guess I could do San Joaquin Valley. Kind of steal your name a little bit there.
Yeah, but however we can help, we feel, everybody, I'm speaking for all the stakeholders, we feel like this offering provides more culture, more community, more preparation for what it could look like to get into pro playing and collegiate playing, because they're getting way more play time than with anything else.
Yeah.
And they're representing a school or an organization instead of being in those silos.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I just sent you an email, so I'll be touching base soon too. So
awesome. Great meeting you, Doug. Appreciate your passion for helping kids.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Woodruff. And just a reminder, please, if you can rate him on SCED, that way we can get some follow-up information on this.
Cool.
Great.
And thank you for your help, Aranza.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.